Rain washed the blood off the pavement, but it couldn't wash away the mistake Harper Jane had just made. She thought she was just doing the right thing, saving the quiet, nerdy kid in the corner booth from a brutal beating by the local rich boys. She swung a pot of boiling coffee to save him. She didn't care about the consequences. But when the black SUVs rolled up and men in Italian suits bowed to the boy she just rescued, Harper realized the terrified look in his eyes wasn't fear. It was mercy. She hadn't saved a victim. She had just protected the heir to the most dangerous crime family in Chicago. And now she belongs to them. The neon sign of the Rusty Spoon flickered with a dying buzz, casting a sickly yellow light onto the wet pavement of Chicago's 4th Ward. It was 11:45 p.m. on a Tuesday, the kind of night that felt heavy, smelling of exhaust fumes and old fryer grease. Inside, Harper Jane wiped down the counter for the 50th time. At 23, Harper had the kind of beauty that looked best in the shadows. Sharp cheekbones, eyes the color of burnt espresso, and hair tied back in a messy bun that defied gravity and the health code. She was exhausted. Her feet throbbed in her non-slip shoes, a rhythmic reminder of the double shift she picked up to pay for her mother's insulin. "Hey, Elle, table 4 needs a refill," calls out Marge, the 60-year-old chain smoker who managed the diner. Harper nodded, grabbing the pot. "On it." Table 4 was occupied by the only reason the diner was peaceful Leo. Or at least that's what his name tag said on the backpack he kept clutched to his chest. Leo Miller. He was a regular. He looked to be about her age, maybe a year younger, with messy brown hair that fell into his eyes and thick-rimmed glasses that slid down his nose. He always ordered a black coffee and a slice of cherry pie, and he never spoke more than 2 words. He just read thick textbooks on architecture. He looked harmless, fragile even. The kind of guy the city usually chewed up and spat out before breakfast. "Top you off, Leo?" Harper asked, her voice softening. She had a soft spot for the quiet ones. Leo looked up, startled, as if he hadn't expected to be seen. His eyes were a striking, piercing blue, a strange contrast to his timid demeanor. "Yes, please." "Thank you, Harper." He knew her name. She smiled. "You studying late again?" "That mid-term must be a killer." "Something like that," Leo murmured, his hand trembling slightly as he reached for his cup. The bell above the door jingled, but it wasn't a gentle sound. It was aggressive. The door was thrown open, bringing a gust of cold rain and 3 men who instantly sucked the air out of the room. Harper's stomach dropped. She knew them. Everyone in the neighborhood knew them. Leading the pack was Chet Kensington. He was 6'2" of steroid-pumped muscle and daddy's money. His father was a corrupt city councilman who kept the police on a short leash, meaning Chet could do whatever he wanted. Behind him were his 2 lapdogs, Mark and Silas guys, who peaked in high school and were now just professional bullies. "Well, well," Chet boomed, shaking his umbrella onto the clean floor. "Smells like poverty in here." Marge kept her head down in the kitchen. She knew better. Harper gripped the handle of the coffee pot tighter. "We close in 15 minutes, Chet. Order or get out." Chet ignored her, his eyes scanning the room until they landed on the corner booth. A cruel grin spread across his face. "Look at this. The little ghost is here." Leo didn't look up from his book, but Harper saw his knuckles turn white as he gripped the page. Chet sauntered over, kicking a chair out of his way. "Hey, Miller, I heard you were in this part of town. You lost the library is about 5 miles that way." "Leave him alone, Chet," Harper warned, stepping out from behind the counter. "He's a paying customer." Shut up, waitress, Silas sneered, stepping in her path. He smelled of cheap beer and expensive cologne. Chet leaned over the table, placing a heavy hand on Leo's open book. You know, Miller, my dad was talking about that zoning project your little family business is trying to bid on. He says it's going to get denied. Unless... Chet grabbed Leo's coffee and slowly poured it onto the open textbook. The dark liquid ruined the pages. Leo didn't move. He didn't flinch. He just watched the coffee stain spread, his expression unreadable. Unless you pay the toll? Chet laughed. What do you have in that bag? Cash a laptop. Please. Leo said, his voice barely a whisper. Just leave me alone. I don't think I will. Chet grabbed the strap of Leo's backpack. Give it here. No. Chet backhanded him. The sound was a wet crack that echoed through the silent diner. Leo's glasses flew off, skittering across the linoleum. Blood trickled from his lip. That was the snap. Harper didn't think. She didn't consider the councilman, the police, or the fact that she was 5'5". She saw red. She saw a bully hurting someone who wouldn't fight back. I said, Harper screamed, leave him alone. She marched forward. Silas tried to grab her arm, but she was faster. She swung the heavy glass coffee pot with all the rage of a woman who had been pushed around by life for too long. Smash! The pot shattered against Silas's collarbone. Hot coffee and glass shards sprayed everywhere. Silas howled, clutching his shoulder and dropping to his knees. The diner went dead silent. Chet turned slowly, his eyes wide with shock that morphed instantly into murderous rage. He let go of Leo. You stupid botch! He snarled. Harper stood her ground, holding the jagged glass handle like a shiv. Her breath came in ragged gasps. Get out! Chet lunged. He was big, but he was clumsy with anger. Harper sidestepped, but he caught her shoulder, slamming her back against the booth. Pain exploded in her spine. He raised a fist, ready to pulverize her face. Harper squeezed her eyes shut, bracing for the impact. It never came. There was a sound, a low, dull thud, like a butcher slamming a slab of meat onto a table. Then the sound of air being forcibly sucked out of lungs. Harper opened her eyes. Chet was frozen, his fist mid-air. His eyes were bulging. Slowly he looked down. Leo was standing. He wasn't cowering anymore. He had one hand casually in his pocket, and the other was gripping Chet's wrist with a strength that seemed impossible for his frame. But it was the fork in Leo's hand that drew the eye. He had jammed it into the soft wood of the table, trapping Chet's tie, effectively pinning the bully's head inches from the surface. But it was Leo's face that chilled Harper to the bone. The fear was gone. The shyness was gone. In its place was a cold, predatory boredom. You're making a mess, Leo said. His voice wasn't a whisper anymore. It was smooth, dark, and terrifyingly calm. She told you to get out. Chet tried to pull away, but Leo twisted his wrist. A sickening pop echoed. Chet screamed. This establishment is clean. Leo continued, leaning in close to Chet's ear. You are not. If you ever touch her or come back here, I won't use a fork next time. I'll use a spoon, and I'll take my time. Leo released him. Chet stumbled back, clutching his broken wrist, staring at the nerd with absolute horror. You're a freak. Go, Leo commanded. It wasn't a shout. It was a decree. Chet and his goons scrambled over each other to get out the door, slipping on the wet floor in their haste. They ran into the rain like the cowards they were. Silence returned to the rusty spoon. Harper slid down the booth, her legs shaking uncontrollably. She stared at Leo. He was calmly picking up his glasses. He wiped the blood from his lip with a napkin, adjusted his frames and looked at her. The predator was gone. The shy boy was back. "I'm so sorry about the mess, Harper," he said softly. "I can pay for the coffee pot." Harper couldn't speak. She just stared at him, realizing for the first time that she had no idea who Leo Miller actually was. The adrenaline crash hit Harper about 20 minutes later. Her hands were shaking so badly she couldn't sweep up the glass shards. Marge had come out from the kitchen, taken one look at the scene, and promptly locked the front door, flipping the sign to closed. "You okay, honey?" Marge asked, handing Harper a glass of water. I hit him," Harper whispered. "I hit Wallace, and Chet. Marge, Chet is going to tell his dad. The police." "Don't worry about the police right now," a voice said from the corner. Leo was still there. He hadn't left. He was sweeping up the glass with a dustpan, moving with an efficiency that suggested he was used to cleaning up disasters. "You should go, Leo," Harper said, her voice trembling. "If they come back." "They won't come back tonight," Leo said confidently. He stood up and walked over to her. Up close, the bruise on his lip was blooming purple. "You stepped in for me." "Why?" Harper looked at him. "Because they were hurting you. I don't care who they are." Leo studied her face for a long moment. It was an intense, analyzing gaze, as if he were dissecting her soul. Most people look the other way, even the ones who are paid to protect you. "I'm not most people," she muttered, wincing as she rolled her shoulder. It was going to bruise. "No," Leo said quietly. "You certainly aren't." He reached into his back pocket and pulled out a wallet. It wasn't the Velcro nylon wallet of a struggling student. It was sleek black leather. He pulled out a card and placed it on the counter. It was a matte black metal card with no numbers, just a gold chip and a signature on the back. "For the damages," Leo said, "and for your trouble." Harper looked at the card, then pushed it back. "I don't want your money, Leo. Just... Are you okay? That was intense. What you did to Chet." Leo picked up the card, twirling it between his fingers. "Adrenaline makes you do crazy things, I guess." He lied. They both knew he was lying. "I have to go. My ride is here." He hesitated, then reached out and gently touched her arm. His hand was warm. "Thank you, Harper. No one has ever done that for me before." He turned and walked out into the rain. Harper rushed to the window, watching him go. She expected to see him walking to the bus stop. Instead, a sleek black Lincoln Navigator idled at the curb. A massive man in a suit, holding a large umbrella, stepped out and opened the rear door. Leo didn't just get in. He paused, said something to the driver, and pointed at the diner. The driver nodded sharply. As the car pulled away, Harper saw the license plate. It wasn't a standard Illinois plate. It was a vanity plate with a small emblem on the side, a lion rampant. "Who the hell is that kid?" Marge whispered, standing beside her. "I don't know," Harper said, a shiver running down her spine. "But I think I just made a mistake." The next morning, Harper's life began to unravel. She lived in a cramped studio apartment in the Little Italy district, a place where the plaster cracked when the L train went by. She woke up to her phone buzzing incessantly. It was the diner owner, Mr. Henderson. "Harper, don't come in." She sat up, rubbing the sleep from her eyes. Why I have the morning shift?" Chet Kensington's father called, the councilman. He's threatening to pull my liquor license and send the health inspector every day for a year if you work here. He says you assaulted his son." "He assaulted a customer," Harper cried out. "He was going to beat Leo to a pulp." "I know, Elle, I know, but I can't fight City Hall. I'm sorry. I'll mail you your last check." The line went dead. Harper sat on the edge of her bed, the phone slipping from her hand. Fired. Just like that. She had rent due in 3 days. Her mom's medication was $400 a month. She had exactly $62 in her bank account. She put her head in her hands and sobbed. Being a hero didn't pay the bills. It just got you crushed. She spent the day walking the streets, handing out resumes to every cafe and bar within a 10-mile radius. But it was like a black mark had been painted on her forehead. At 2 places, the managers looked at her ID, made a phone call, and then told her the position had been filled. Kensington's reach was long. By 6:00 p.m., she was sitting on a park bench, watching the sun set over the skyline, hungry and defeated. "Miss Jane." Harper jumped. A man was standing in front of her. He was huge, at least 6'4", wearing a tailored charcoal suit that cost more than her entire life's earnings. He had a scar running through his left eyebrow and looked like he'd chewed gravel for breakfast. "Who are you?" Harper stammered, clutching her purse. "My name is Rocco," the man said. His voice was gravelly but polite. "My employer would like to have a word with you." "I don't have any money," Harper said, standing up to back away. "If this is about Chet." "This isn't about the Kensington boy," Rocco said. He gestured to the street. The same black Lincoln Navigator from the night before was parked there. "It's about the young man you helped last night." Harper froze. "Leo? Mr. Leo feels responsible for your employment situation," Rocco said. "He wishes to offer you a job." Harper looked at the car, then back at Rocco. Every instinct in her body screamed danger. You don't get into black cars with strange men. But then she thought about her bank account. She thought about her mom. And she thought about Leo's sad blue eyes and the way he had gently touched her arm. "What kind of job?" she asked. "A well-paying one," Rocco said. "Please, the father is waiting." The father. Harper took a deep breath. "Okay. Take me to him." The drive took 40 minutes. They left the city heading north toward the wealthy estates of Lake Forest. The houses got bigger, the gates higher, the security cameras more visible. Finally, they turned into a driveway that was more like a private road, winding through manicured forests until a massive limestone mansion came into view. It looked like a fortress. Rocco parked and opened her door. "This way." He led her through a grand foyer that smelled of lemon oil and old money, down a hallway lined with oil paintings of severe-looking men, and into a library. The library was dark, lit only by a fireplace and a few lamps. Sitting in a leather wingback chair by the fire was a man. He held a glass of whiskey in one hand and a cigar in the other. He looked like an older, terrifying version of Leo. The same sharp jaw, the same dark hair. But his eyes weren't blue. They were black like a shark's. This was Don Lorenzo Moretti, the head of the Chicago outfit. The man the news whispered about, but never indicted. Harper's knees almost gave out. She knew who he was. Everyone in Chicago knew the name Moretti. "So," Lorenzo said, his voice a deep baritone that vibrated in Harper's chest. "This is the waitress who swings a coffee pot like a gladiator." He didn't stand up. He just watched her. I didn't know who Leo was," Harper managed to say. You protected him, Lorenzo finished. He took a sip of whiskey. My son, Leonardo, he likes to play dress-up. He likes to pretend he is a normal student. He refuses a detail. It drives me mad. Lorenzo leaned forward, the firelight catching the gold ring on his pinky finger. When Rocco told me a waitress interfered with a beating, I assumed you were an assassin or a gold digger. I'm neither, Harper said, finding a scrap of courage. I'm just a waitress who got fired because I did the right thing. Lorenzo chuckled. It was a dry, humorless sound. Yes, the Kensington problem. I have handled it. Handled it. The councilman has decided to retire early. And his son, well, let's just say Chet will be spending a long time in physical therapy for his wrist. Lorenzo waved his hand dismissively. But that is not why you are here. The library door opened. Leo walked in. He looked different. He wasn't wearing the baggy hoodies or the glasses. He wore a fitted black button-down shirt, sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms that were defined and strong. He looked taller, stronger. Father, Leo said, his voice firm. He looked at Harper, and his expression softened. Harper, I told Rocco not to scare you. I apologize if he did. Leo, Harper breathed. You're a Moretti. I am, he admitted. He walked over to stand beside his father's chair, but he didn't look like a subordinate. He looked like a prince standing next to a king. Harper, Don Lorenzo said. My son claims you are trustworthy. He claims you have grit. I need a caretaker for him. A caretaker, Harper frowned. He looks like he can take care of himself. Not that kind of care, Leo interrupted. Harper, my father has enemies, many of them. I need someone who can blend in, someone who can be with me at the university at events, someone who looks innocent but has the instinct to swing a coffee pot when things go wrong. You want me to be a bodyguard? Harper asked, incredulous. No, Lorenzo said sharply. We have men with guns for that. We want you to be his companion, his eyes and ears where my men cannot go. In exchange, I will pay you $10,000 a month, plus expenses, and your mother's medical bills will be taken care of, indefinitely. Harper's mouth went dry. $10,000 a month? That was life-changing money. Why me? She asked. Leo stepped closer to her. He smelled of rain and sandalwood. Because, he whispered, so only she could hear when everyone else watched you moved. I trust you, Harper. And right now, you're the only one I do trust. Harper looked at Leo. She saw the danger in his world. She saw the darkness in his father's eyes. But she also saw the boy who just wanted to read architecture books in peace. She took a deep breath. When do I start? Don Lorenzo smiled, and it was the smile of a wolf who just trapped a rabbit. You already have. Welcome to the family, Miss Jane. The transition from the grime of the rusty spoon to the pristine silence of the Moretti estate was not a dream. It was a sensory shock. Harper was given a suite in the East Wing, a set of rooms larger than the entire apartment building she had grown up in. The sheets were Egyptian cotton that felt like cool water against her skin. The bathroom was marble, stocked with soaps that smelled of lavender and crushed pearls. But the windows, tall, beautiful French-paned windows, did not open more than 3 inches. Safety, Rocco had told her. For the first 3 days, she didn't see Leo. She didn't see Don Lorenzo. She saw only the staff who moved like ghosts, and a woman named Isabella. Isabella was severe in her 50s, with hair pulled back so tight it pulled at the corners of her eyes. She was brought in to refine Harper. "You walk like you are carrying a tray," Isabella criticized on the second afternoon, circling Harper in the grand parlor. "You lead with your shoulders. You apologize with your posture before you even speak." Harper stood in the center of the room, wearing a silk slip dress that felt too revealing, despite covering her from neck to knee. "I'm a waitress," Harper snapped, her patience fraying. "I carry trays. That's what I do." "Not anymore," Isabella replied coldly. "Now you are the companion of Leonardo Moretti. You are a target. If you look weak, the wolves will circle. If you look uncertain, they will bite. You must walk as if you own the ground beneath your feet, not as if you are asking permission to step on it." The training was grueling. It wasn't physical exercise. It was psychological dismantling. Isabella taught her which fork to use for oysters. Yes, but more importantly, she taught her how to read a room of criminals. Look at the hands, never the eyes. The eyes lie. The hands reveal intent. Never sit with your back to an exit. If someone offers you a drink, watch them pour it. If they don't pour it in front of you, you knock it over accidentally. By the evening of the fourth day, Harper was mentally exhausted. She retreated to the library, the same room where she had met the Don, hoping for quiet. The fire was dying in the grate. She thought she was alone until a shadow detached itself from the high-backed armchair. "You look tired." Harper jumped her hand, instinctively going to her chest. It was Leo. He was different here than he was at the diner, and different again from the cold enforcer who had broken Chet's wrist. He looked burdened. He was wearing grey sweatpants and a t-shirt reading a book on structural engineering. He looked like the boy she had tried to save, but the air around him was heavy. "Isabella is a tyrant," Harper said, exhaling slowly. She walked over to the fire, warming her hands. "I feel like a doll being repainted." "She's necessary," Leo said softly. He closed his book. "My world relies on perception, Harper. If people think you are weak, they will use you to get to me. I can't let that happen. To protect your reputation." "To protect you," Leo corrected. The intensity in his voice made her turn to look at him. He stood up and walked toward her. The firelight cast long, dancing shadows across his face, highlighting the sharp angle of his jaw and the deep, soulful blue of his eyes. "Why do you do it, Leo?" She asked the question that had been burning in her mind. "The disguise, the diner, the architecture books. You're the heir to all of this. Why pretend to be a victim?" Leo looked into the fire. A bitter smile touched his lips. "Because in this house I am the prince. I am the future Don. Everyone who talks to me wants power money or protection. At the diner, inside that booth, I was just Leo. Just a nerd with a cherry pie." He turned his gaze to her. "And when those guys attacked me, I let them push me. Because I wanted to see if anyone would care about just Leo." Harper felt a lump form in her throat. "And no one did." "You did," he whispered. He stepped closer, invading her personal space, but she didn't back away. "You didn't know about the money. You didn't know about the guns. You saw a weak boy being hurt, and you fought for him. You have no idea how rare that is, Harper. You are the only real thing I have found in 24 years. The air between them crackled with a tension that was terrified and electric. Harper looked up at him, realizing that beneath the terrifying exterior of the Mafia prince, there was a profound, aching loneliness. "I'm not cut out for this, Leo," she confessed, her voice trembling. "I'm scared. I look at these walls and I see a prison." It is a prison, Leo agreed. He reached out his fingers, grazing her cheek. His touch was hesitant, gentle. But it's a fortress too, and as long as you are inside it, no one will ever hurt you again. I promise you that. For a moment, Harper thought he might kiss her. She wanted him to. It was a dangerous, stupid want. Falling for the boss was a cliché that ended in tragedy. But the magnetic pull of him was undeniable. But then the heavy oak doors of the library creaked open. Rocco stood there, his face unreadable. Leo, your father needs you in the study. The shipment from the docks has an issue. The moment shattered. Leo's face hardened instantly. The vulnerability vanished, locked away behind a steel door. He nodded once. Go to sleep, Harper. Leo said, his voice void of the warmth it held seconds ago. Tomorrow is the gala. You need to be ready. He walked past her without looking back, leaving her alone with the dying fire and the cold realization that she was falling in love with a man who might be a monster. The annual San Mateo Charity Gala was the highlight of the Chicago social calendar. On paper, it was a fundraiser for the city's orphanages. In reality, it was a summit. A ceasefire where the city's 5 families, the politicians they owned, and the police captains they bribed could mingle, drink champagne, and carve up the city's territory with smiles on their faces. Harper felt like she was walking to her execution. She wore a dress Leo had selected for her. It was a deep, blood-red velvet strapless with a slit that ran up her thigh. It hugged every curve, commanding attention. Around her neck sat a diamond choker that cost more than her mother's entire lifetime of earnings. But the most heavy accessory was the knowledge of what lay beneath Leo's tuxedo jacket. As she adjusted his bow tie in the limousine, she felt the hard outline of a shoulder holster. Relax, Leo said, covering her trembling hand with his own. Just breathe. You look stunning. I feel like bait, she whispered. You're not bait, Leo said, his eyes darkening. You're the queen tonight, and anyone who disrespects you answers to me. The car stopped. Flashbulbs erupted like lightning storms as the door opened. They walked up the grand staircase of the Art Institute of Chicago. Harper clung to Leo's arm, her knuckles white. She used Isabella's training, chin up, shoulders back. Look bored. Inside the ballroom was a sea of tuxedos and jewels. A string quartet played Mozart, trying to mask the undercurrent of violence in the room. Stay close, Leo murmured, guiding her through the crowd. Smile. Don't drink anything unless I hand it to you. They were greeted by endless streams of people. Men with thick necks and cruel eyes kissed her hand. Women with surgically frozen faces judged her dress. Harper played the part, nodding, smiling, saying nothing. Then the waters parted. A man approached them. He was in his early 30s, handsome in a sleazy, oiled way, with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He held a glass of scotch and looked at Leo with a mixture of amusement and contempt. Cousin, the man drawled. Leo stiffened. Marco. Harper remembered the name from her briefings with Rocco. Marco Moretti, Leo's cousin. The man who would have been heir if Leo hadn't been born. He was volatile, ambitious, and hated Leo with a burning passion. And who is this? Marco asked, his eyes raking over Harper's body with offensive slowness. I didn't know we were bringing hired help to the gala. Harper felt Leo's arm tense like a coiled spring. Careful, Marco. Leo warned, his voice low and dangerous. This is Harper. She is with me. Is she? Marco stepped closer, invading Harper's personal space. He smelled of expensive gin and malice. She looks familiar. Haven't I seen you pouring coffee at that dump on 4th Street, the Rusty Spoon? Harper's heart hammered against her ribs. He knew. I've worked many jobs, Harper said, her voice surprisingly steady. She remembered Isabella's advice. When challenged, do not defend. Attack. It teaches you the value of hard work, something I assume you know little about, Marco, given that you've lived off your uncle's name your whole life. Silence rippled through the immediate circle of guests. Leo's eyebrows shot up. Marco's smile vanished. His face twisted into a snarl. You have a sharp tongue, little girl. Careful you don't cut your own throat with it. That's enough. Leo stepped in, physically placing himself between Marco and Harper. Go enjoy the open bar, Marco, before you say something that gets you removed. Marco laughed, but it was a cold, mirthless sound. He leaned in close to Leo, dropping his voice to a whisper that Harper strained to hear. Enjoy the night, Leo. Just remember, not everyone is happy that the little architect is playing gangster. Some of us think the family needs stronger leadership. Marco winked at Harper, a gesture that made her skin crawl, and disappeared into the crowd. What did he mean? Harper asked, clutching Leo's arm. He's drunk. Leo dismissed, but his jaw was tight. He's just trying to scare you. He succeeded, she admitted. Come, Leo said, guiding her toward the balcony. I need fresh air. The balcony overlooked the Chicago skyline, the city lights reflecting off the dark expanse of Lake Michigan. It was quiet here, away from the suffocating perfume and tension of the ballroom. Leo leaned against the stone railing, taking a deep breath. He looked exhausted. I hate this, he admitted. I hate these people. I hate the lies. Marco hates you, Harper said quietly. He really hates you, Leo. Marco thinks I'm sick, Leo said, staring at the horizon. He thinks because I went to college, because I don't enjoy torture, that I'm unfit to lead. He's been trying to undermine me for years. Leo turned to her. That night at the diner. The Bullies, Chet. What about them? Chet didn't just happen to find me, Leo said darkly. I found out this morning. Someone tipped Chet off that I was there alone. Someone told him I was an easy target. Harper gasped. Marco. I can't prove it yet, Leo said. But yes, he wanted me beaten. He wanted me humiliated so he could show my father that I can't even protect myself. He looked at Harper, his eyes fierce. But you ruined his plan. You saved me. And now you're here standing up to him to his face. You have no idea how much that angers him. So I'm a target too, Harper realized. The fear was there, cut and sharp in her stomach, but strangely looking at Leo, she felt something else. Determination. I won't let him touch you, Leo vowed. He reached out, taking both her hands in his. Suddenly, the glass door to the balcony slid open. A waiter stepped out, holding a silver tray with 2 glasses of champagne. Compliments of Mr. Marco Moretti, the waiter said, bowing his head. A peace offering. Leo stared at the glasses. He reached out his hand, hovering. Harper's eyes narrowed. She looked at the waiter. He was sweating. His shoes were scuffed cheap sneakers, disguised as dress shoes. And his hands were shaking. Look at the hands, Isabella had said. Leo, no! Harper cried out. She slapped Leo's hand away, just as he was about to take the glass. The glass tipped over on the tray. The waiter didn't apologize. He didn't gasp. He reached under the tray. Harper saw the glint of metal. "Gun!" she screamed, throwing her body weight against Leo, shoving him hard to the side. Pop! Pop! 2 suppressed shots coughed into the night air. The stone railing where Leo had been standing exploded into dust. Harper and Leo crashed to the floor, tangling in the red velvet of her dress. The waiter dropped the tray and raised the gun again, aiming down at them. Leo didn't hesitate this time. He didn't look like the architect. He moved with the terrifying speed of the predator she had seen in the diner. From his prone position, he kicked out his heel, connecting with the waiter's kneecap. There was a sickening crunch. The waiter screamed and buckled. Leo rolled, drawing the gun from his shoulder holster in one fluid motion. He fired once. The waiter dropped to the ground, silent. For a second, there was only the sound of the wind and the distant traffic. Harper lay on the cold stone, her ears ringing her heart, trying to beat its way out of her chest. She looked at Leo. He was standing over the body, his gun still raised, his face a mask of cold, unadulterated fury. He turned to her. The fury vanished, replaced by panic. "Harper!" He dropped to his knees beside her, his hands checking her for blood. "Harper, are you hit?" I don't think so," she stammered, shaking uncontrollably. "The waiter, the champagne, you saw it." Leo breathed, pulling her into his arms. He held her so tight it hurt. "My God, Harper, you saved me again." The balcony doors burst open. Rocco and 4 other security guards rushed in, guns drawn. They saw the dead assassin, the shattered stone, and their future, Don clutching the girl in the red dress. "Secure the perimeter," Rocco barked. "Lock down the ballroom. No one leaves." Leo pulled back to look at Harper. His hands were cupping her face, smearing a tiny speck of the assassin's blood on her cheek. "Listen to me," Leo said, his voice ragged. "Everything changes now. They didn't just try to humiliate me. They tried to kill me. And they did it in front of the 5 families." He helped her stand, his grip bruising. "Marco has started a war," Leo growled, looking back at the ballroom where the music had stopped and screams were beginning to rise. "And I am going to finish it." Harper looked at the man she had agreed to watch. The boy was gone. The wolf had arrived, and she was standing right in the center of the slaughterhouse. The world was a blur of passing streetlights and rain-slicked asphalt. After the chaos at the gala, the screams, the smell of cordite, the rush of security guards swarming the balcony. Leo hadn't let go of Harper's hand. Not once. He had dragged her through the service exit, pushed her into the back of a different car, a nondescript sedan this time, and barked an address to Rocco. Now, hours later, they were miles away from the city. The noise of Chicago had faded into the silence of the deep woods near the Wisconsin border. The car crunched over gravel and came to a stop in front of a modern structure made almost entirely of steel and glass perched over a rushing river. It looked cold, isolated, and safe. "We stay here until Rocco clears the city," Leo said. His voice was hoarse. He hadn't looked at her for the entire drive, staring out the window with a brooding intensity that terrified her. They entered the house. It was freezing inside. Leo immediately went to the wall panel, turning up the heat and igniting the gas fireplace. He moved with a mechanical precision, shedding his tuxedo jacket and tossing it onto a leather sofa. Harper stood by the door, shivering. It wasn't the cold, it was the shock. She looked down at her red dress. The hem was torn. There was dust from the stone railing, and on her shoulder a single dried smear of blood. "Harper." She looked up. Leo was standing in the center of the living room, looking at her. The adrenaline had faded, leaving him pale and haunted. "You need to get out of those clothes," he said softly. "There are robes in the master bath. Take a shower. Wash the night off." Harper nodded numbly. She found the bathroom a cavern of slate and stone. She turned the water on, as hot as she could stand it. She scrubbed her skin until it was raw, trying to wash away the memory of the waiter's eyes, just before Leo pulled the trigger. He killed him. He killed him to save me. When she finally emerged, wrapped in a thick white robe, the living room was warm. Leo had poured 2 glasses of amber liquid. He was sitting on the floor in front of the fire, his back against the sofa knees pulled up. He had discarded his holster and his shirt. Harper froze. Across Leo's back, illuminated by the firelight, was a tapestry of scars. Some were old and faded white lines from childhood accidents, but others were newer. Lash marks, cigarette burns, the history of a boy raised by wolves. She walked over quietly and sat on the floor beside him. Leo flinched slightly at her presence, but didn't move away. He handed her a glass. "It's brandy. It helps with the shakes." Harper took a sip. It burned pleasantly, settling her stomach. "Leo," she whispered, "you're back." Leo took a long drink, staring into the flames. "Discipline," he said simply. "My father believes that pain is the best teacher. When I refused to shoot a deer when I was 10, I learned. When I wanted to study art instead of business, I learned." He turned to look at her, his blue eyes shimmering with moisture. "I told you, Harper, I'm a monster. I was made to be one." "No," Harper said firmly, setting her glass down. "A monster would have let me drink that champagne. A monster wouldn't be shaking right now because he had to take a life." "I enjoyed it," Leo confessed, his voice cracking. "For a second, when I saw him aiming at you, I wanted to destroy him. I didn't feel fear, Harper. I felt right. That's the scary part. The violence fits me." "It fits the situation," Harper countered. She reached out her hand, hovering over his bare shoulder, then gently resting on a scar. "You protected me. That's not monstrous. That's human." Leo closed his eyes at her touch. He leaned into her hand, a starving man finally being offered bread. "I should have left you at the diner," he murmured. "I should have paid for the coffee pot, and never seen you again. You almost died tonight because of me." "But I didn't," Harper said. "I'm here." Leo turned his body toward her. The firelight danced in his eyes, making the blue look like molten indigo. He reached out and touched a stray lock of wet hair that fell across her forehead. "Why do you stay?" he asked, searching her face. "You could take the money and run. Rocco would let you. Why are you sitting on the floor of a safe house with a killer?" Harper looked at him. She saw the boy who read architecture books. She saw the man who held her hand in the car. She saw the scars. "Because," Harper whispered, her heart pounding against her ribs, "I think you're the one who needs saving this time." Leo let out a breath that sounded like a sob. He leaned forward slowly, giving her every chance to pull away. She didn't. She leaned in to meet him. His lips were soft, hesitant, at first tasting of brandy and desperation. But when Harper placed her hand on the back of his neck, pulling him closer, the hesitation vanished. He kissed her with a hunger that consumed the room. It wasn't the smooth, practiced kiss of a playboy. It was frantic and real. It was an anchor in the middle of a storm. For that night, the war outside didn't exist. There was only the fire, the rain on the glass roof, and two broken people trying to fit their jagged pieces together. Morning arrived with a cold grey light that filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows. The rain had stopped, leaving the forest dripping and silent. Harper woke up in the oversized bed in the master bedroom. She was alone. Panic flared in her chest for a second until she smelled coffee. She found a sweater of Leo's too big hanging off her shoulder and walked out to the living area. Leo was there, but the tenderness of the night before was gone. He was standing by the window, fully dressed in black jeans and a tactical sweater. He was listening to Rocco, who had evidently arrived some time in the early hours. The atmosphere in the room was suffocating. "Are you sure?" Leo was asking, his voice low and deadly. 100% boss, Rocco said. The big man looked uncomfortable, shifting his weight from foot to foot. He held a manila folder in his hands. "We traced the waiter's payment. It wasn't cash. It was a wire transfer. Sloppy. Whoever hired him wanted it to be found." Leo turned. He saw Harper standing there. His expression didn't soften. It remained hard, carved from granite. "Harper," he acknowledged. "Pack your things. We are leaving." "What's going on?" Harper asked, stepping into the room. "Did you find Marco?" Leo walked over to the kitchen island and poured himself a black coffee. His hand was steady today. "It wasn't Marco." Harper blinked. "What?" "But at the party. He threatened you. He sent the drinks." "Marco is loud," Leo said, his back to her. "Marco is arrogant. If Marco wanted to kill me, he would have used a bomb or a drive-by, something spectacular that screamed his name. This, a poisoned drink, a silenced pistol. This was quiet. This was surgical. Then who?" Leo turned around. He tossed the manila folder onto the counter. It slid across the marble surface and stopped in front of Harper. "Read it." Harper opened the folder. Inside was a bank statement, a transfer of $50,000 to an account linked to the waiter, a man named Silas Vane, no relation to the diner bully, just a hired gun. The source of the funds was a shell company called Eterna Holdings. "I don't understand," Harper said, looking up. "What is Eterna Holdings?" "It's a holding company," Leo said, his voice void of emotion. "For the estate's security payroll." Harper felt a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature. "The estate, your house, my father," Leo said. The silence that followed was deafening. Your father hired the hit man," Harper whispered, horrified. "To kill his own son." "Not to kill me," Leo corrected. He walked over to the window, staring out at the rushing river. "To almost kill me. To scare me. To test me." He slammed his fist against the reinforced glass, a sudden explosion of violence that made Harper jump. "He knew Marco was making moves," Leo snarled, the anger finally breaking through. "He knew Marco was challenging my claim, but instead of stopping Marco, my father decided to accelerate the process. He hired a shooter to get close to see if I was awake, to see if I had the killer instinct necessary to lead the family." Leo turned to look at Harper, his eyes wild. "It was a test, Harper, the gala, the waiter, all of it. He wanted to see if I would pull the trigger. If I hesitated, I would die and he would know I wasn't worthy. If I killed the man I passed. He risked your life for a test." Harper felt sick. "And me, I was standing right next to you." "You were collateral damage," Leo said bitterly. "To Don Lorenzo, you are just a tool, a prop to make me look normal. If you died, it would have just been another lesson for me. Don't get attached." Rocco cleared his throat awkwardly. Boss, the Don has summoned you. He wants a debrief on the incident. He expects you at the main house in an hour." Leo laughed. It was a terrifying sound. "Of course he does. He wants to see if the puppy has finally grown fangs." Leo walked over to Harper. He gripped her shoulders. His touch was firm, desperate. "You can't go back there," he said. "Harper, you have to leave, now. Rocco will take you to the airport. I have accounts overseas. Italy, Spain. Just pick one." "No," Harper said immediately. "This isn't a debate," Leo shouted, his composure cracking. "My father is insane. He almost had you killed to teach me a lesson. Next time there won't be a test. There will just be bodies. I can't watch you die, Harper." "If I leave, you're alone with him," Harper said, her voice shaking but stubborn. "You're alone in that house with a man who wants to turn you into a monster." "I am a monster," Leo roared. "Didn't you see me last night? I killed a man. And I didn't feel a thing. I am his son. It's in my blood." "You felt something," Harper yelled back, shoving his chest. "You felt fear. You felt love. You shook in my arms all night. That is not a monster, Leo. That is a man in hell." She grabbed his face, forcing him to look at her. "I'm not going anywhere. You hired me to be your eyes and ears." "Fine. I'm doing my job. You can't fight him alone. He'll crush you. He'll turn you into him." Leo stared at her. The conflict raged behind his eyes. He wanted to push her away to save her, but he was selfish. He needed her. She was the only light in the pitch-black tunnel of his life. "If you come back with me," Leo said, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper, "there is no going back to the diner. There is no going back to normal. If we walk through those doors, we are declaring war on my father. Not with guns, we can't win a shooting war against the outfit, but a war for the soul of this family." "I'm not afraid of the coffee pot anymore, Leo," Harper said, a fierce smile touching her lips. "I'm ready for the fire." Leo looked at her for a long moment. Then slowly he nodded. A dark resolve settled over his features. The boy was gone. The prince was gone. The king was waking up. "Rocco," Leo commanded, not looking away from Harper. "Yes, boss. Get the car. We're going home." Leo paused, his thumb tracing Harper's jawline. "And call the tailor. Harper needs a new dress. Black. Something that looks like mourning." "Mourning for who?" Rocco asked. Leo turned to the door, his face a mask of cold determination. "For the son my father thought he had." The heavy oak doors of the library groaned open, the sound echoing just as it had the night Harper first arrived. Don Lorenzo was waiting. He sat in the same leather wingback chair, the smoke from his cigar curling into the stagnant air. He didn't look up as they entered. "So," Lorenzo said, his voice a low rumble, "the prodigal son returns." And he brought his pet. Leo didn't flinch. He walked into the room, not with the hesitation of a student, but with the heavy, measured stride of a predator. Harper walked beside him wearing the black dress he had requested, sharp, elegant, and severe. She didn't hide behind him this time. She stood shoulder to shoulder. "She's not a pet," Leo said, his voice terrifyingly calm. "She's the only reason you're still breathing." Lorenzo laughed, setting his glass down. "Is that so? I heard you handled the waiter efficiently." "I was proud, Leonardo. You passed the test." "It wasn't a test," Leo corrected. He stopped in front of the desk, towering over his father. "It was a resignation." Lorenzo's eyes narrowed into black slits. "Excuse me, You hired a hitman to shoot at your own heir in front of the 5 families. Leo said, his voice rising just enough to cut through the room like a blade. You think that showed strength? It showed madness. And the commission agrees. Lorenzo stood up slowly, his face flushing red. You spoke to the commission. I spoke to everyone. Leo lied smoothly, though the conviction in his eyes made it truth. I told them that Don Lorenzo has become unstable, that he risks open war for the sake of family drama. They want stability, Father. They want business. They don't want a king who eats his own young. Leo reached into his jacket. Rocco, standing by the door, tensed. Lorenzo's hand drifted toward the drawer where he kept his pistol. But Leo didn't pull a gun. He pulled out the matte black metal card, the same one he had tried to give Harper at the diner. He flicked it onto the desk. Your accounts have been frozen. The guards outside answer to Rocco, and Rocco answers me. Lorenzo looked at Rocco. The giant man stared at the floor, then gave a single, imperceptible nod to Leo. The betrayal was absolute. You can retire to the Lake Como estate, Leo said, his voice devoid of warmth. Or you can stay here and explain to the commission why you missed. Lorenzo looked at his son, then at Harper. He saw the bruise on Leo's lip from Dinah and the fire in Harper's eyes, the girl who had swung a coffee pot at a bully. He realized too late that by trying to forge a weapon, he had sharpened the blade that would cut his own throat. Slowly, Lorenzo sat back down. He aged 10 years in 10 seconds. He waved a hand dismissively, a defeated king. Get out, Lorenzo whispered. No, Leo said. This is my study now. Lorenzo froze. Then with a shaking hand, he picked up his whiskey, stood up, and walked past them without a word. The door clicked shut behind him. Silence filled the room. The monster was gone. Leo let out a long, shaky breath and leaned against the heavy desk. The mask of the Don slipped, revealing the exhausted boy beneath. Harper stepped forward, taking his hand. You did it, she whispered. Leo looked at her, his blue eyes finally clear. We did it. He walked around the desk and sat in the massive leather chair. It was too big for him, but he grew into it as he sat back, pulling Harper down to sit on the armrest beside him. So, Harper asked, resting her head on his shoulder, what does the Mafia boss do now? Leo looked at the architecture book, still sitting on the side table, then at the woman who had saved his life with a pot of boiling coffee. He smiled, and for the first time, it was a smile of true freedom. Now, Leo said, we rebuild. Harper Jane thought she was saving a victim, but she saved a king. In the violent world of the Chicago outfit, Leo found the one thing money couldn't buy: loyalty. And in the arms of a dangerous man, Harper found the strength she never knew she had. They started in a diner with a shattered coffee pot, and they ended on the throne of the city. Do you think Harper made the right choice staying with Leo, or should she have taken the money and run? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel, and subscribe for more twisted romances and thrillers. Thanks for watching.